Lone talked about this on the last episode. He mentioned coming up with different categories, and as we talked about Grammy nominees, and the homie Skyzoo actually, I don't know if he heard. If you did, Sky, we appreciate you. I don't know if he heard what we were talking about. I hope that's the case. But he made an interesting post on IG. I'm going to read this and we can kind of jump into it. It says, so it seems like every year, hashtag Grammys, Recording Academy, adds new categories to their slate. That being said, we getting this best underground rap album category one day or nah? Mind you, we shouldn't have to be subcategorized, but we know how the game goes. Mm-hmm. I agree with that 100%.
I'm with it.
I'm with this. I think if we're going to do best melodic, I don't know, rap, whatever those were that we read, like I even said they were weird last week when we talked about it. But I understand where it's coming from.
They're trying to evolve.
Yeah, I understand that part of it. It's just strange from a hip hop standpoint, but I understand what he's saying when he, especially when he talks about, just the concept of the subcategories. But I'm all for this. Mm-hmm. And his album would actually be one of the nominees in my personal opinion.
It would. You know who would clean up in that category?
That's what I was going to ask.
Would be the most popular underground cat.
Yeah, it's always
would be Currency.
See that's the thing. So that's what I was gonna say. What constitutes underground?
Okay, so
because then we have underground, then we have underground. We have underground.
I'm gonna come to you, Lone. I'm glad you said that. So if we look at it from a following if we're looking at it from a following standpoint, in my opinion, I could be wrong. It's just my assessment. Currency's cult following, if you will, is bigger than Skyzoo's,
right?
On the underground, from an underground standpoint,
probably. But
I still think, I don't know, man. Historically, I would still see them somewhat as peers. I don't think of Currency as being someone that's towering above Skyzoo from a perception standpoint.
Right.
That's just me now. We'll talk about it. But
I just talked about another album, 2 albums that would have been featured in that. In my personal opinion,
what's that?
Would have been the Styly Apollo Brown joint.
You did,
and Joel Ortiz.
But what do you think about that, Lone? From how do we decipher what's what? That's a fair point what you said, but I look at them more closely to peers, I guess, than what the numbers would say. If that's,
I think the issue with it to me is that it's the style.
Okay.
Because if we have a melodic rap are we gonna have a melodic rap underground?
Right.
Like, what is underground sound?
They would group everybody in the same category.
That's what would happen.
Which still would throw a monkey wrench in the whole situation.
Yeah. It would.
So I don't think it would actually fix anything unless they defined it as best hip hop album with classic boom bap drums.
Mm-hmm. And they won't do that. That's too much. Yeah, they're not going to do that.
You're right. And I also think it's too much. Maybe the Grammys isn't just. Maybe the Grammys
just be another award show. That actually sticks.
But best underground rap album to me sounds good and would fit.
But
what is it?
But this is the thing, because they do have a category: best traditional R&B album or best traditional R&B song.
The Weeknd won that.
But see,
why?
But this is how you do it. Okay, so maybe we look at. If they were to do best underground hip hop, they decide, okay, well, this song only didn't crack the top 200 and this album didn't crack the top 150 as far as albums sold. And so therefore it has to be underground. Once again, you're already putting parameters on the category that are created by people who are outside the culture.
And there are parameters on the other categories, I'm talking about in comparison to that, though.
But this is where we get into, okay, why are we putting so much stock into these people giving us awards based on their criteria?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not mad. I think we just. I'm not mad at the notion. Because I get where we come from. We've talked about the Grammys and doesn't mean anything. We've talked about that.
We just want the Grammys to mean something.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm not mad at the notion. It's just I agree with what you all say from the
where we came up at. So we came up in a generation that Michael Jackson went home with 10 Grammys in one show.
Yeah.
And like, that's what you paid attention to for music was the Grammys.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of follows us based on what we put up on a pedestal at a certain point in time in our lives. So that still means something to us to a certain degree. I think that's why people still want the Grammys.
I agree. I mean, there's still an allure to it, but it just comes back to the fact that you can't, we can't seem to define anything. And one, two, it's art and we shouldn't even be trying to define it anyway.
It would never be right. Because even if they did decide to do an underground situation, they wouldn't include the underground artists that we would consider underground.
Yeah. What happens when all of a sudden,
like, who's picking underground?
What happens when Freddie Gibbs and Madlib gets nominated in the main category then?
Because I mean, he's crossed over to the main category.
It would give them an excuse not to put Freddie Gibbs and Madlib, and so because it's like, why would we put just? And this is, I'm not saying this has happened. It would give them an excuse not to put Freddie Gibbs in the same category as a Drake or a Kendrick Lamar. Be like, oh, you haven't sold enough records.
And I think that's problematic in itself,
because Alfredo was
nominated for something.
It was nominated, but that was a one-off year.
But we
knew that though.
We know what the stipulation and criteria are for these Grammys. It's not even necessarily the album that sounds the best.
Oh,
it's
no,
which one sold more, which one was listened to by more people across different genres and cultures and colors. It's not about which one was the best one. We seen that with Good Kid, Mad City. Good Kid, Mad City was probably, up until that point, the best album that had dropped in probably 10 years at least. But it didn't even win that award.
To me, that's whack.
That's where, honestly, I feel like that's where the Grammys have lost. They lost a lot of credibility that year. And nothing against Macklemore and Ryan Davis, you know what I'm saying, or Lewis. See, that's just it.
That was clearly wrong.
But like when's the last time you really said someone was going to play, what's the song, Thrift Shop or whatever?
That still gets
played, but to Terry's point about
but you know, when you talk about playing, you could play album cuts off of Good Kid, Mad City, and people are going to know what time.
But what Terry said about in relation to the criteria and talking about, when you talked about the sales and who's listening to
Ryan Davis is a comedian. Shout out to him.
He's hilarious by the way.
He is.
I thought that's what the Billboard Awards were for. Record sales and who sold the most.
That's
and all
what
that.
The American Music Awards are for.
Or one of those.
Like, that's about analytics. That is not about, like,
to me, that
artistic.
shouldn't go into that shouldn't be a determining huge factor
Which
in
is
the
why
Grammys.
I've said since the beginning of the show when we first started that the Grammys are pointless.
Like
You've
been saying that since,
because until they start doing something that makes sense, like, why should we care about it, man? Why? Like, I know we want it. We want the Grammys to matter. I'm just calling them the Grammys from now on.
Grammys.
But you know, it's
Granny
just
Apple Award.
It's just at this point in time, it's just something that it's cool when they get it right.
Yeah. And it's tragic when they
get it wrong. It's just like
how often
when
what
they
is the
get it
track
wrong,
record?
we understand because they've been getting it wrong for so long.
What is the track record of them getting it right?
Track record is trash.
Look, I remember when, you know, Diggable Planets beat out Snoop and Queen Latifah. It was like, oh wow, like they kind of got it right that year, but they've been getting it wrong. Look, when you think about who's never won or never even been nominated,
come on, man.
Like the fact that it took till King's Disease for Nas to win one Grammy.
Come on, man.
You know, there are people. Look,
Snoop still has not won a Grammy.
It's all
that might be the dumbest.
It's all political.
Yeah.
And when you understand it's all political, who's gonna pay the money? Because you got to pay money to perform.
Snoop done been featured.
He should have
something.
He should have
got a Grammy by now.
Won a Grammy.
Exactly.
That's how long
by now. He should have been on something that should have got a Grammy by now. But
Snoop is the most consistent, time warping individual artist I've ever seen in my life.
I feel like Snoop. This is going to be maybe a controversial talk. I feel like Snoop. You know, everybody says.
Be careful, Lone.
Everybody says that Jay-Z is the GOAT, right?
Okay.
There's an argument for Snoop.
I can understand the argument.
I can understand that. I can understand
and
that.
Because he can cross over more than Jay can.
His chameleon game is higher than Jay's.
The difference is Jay-Z found his niche and he kept on digging and picking at it. He never stopped.
True.
Whereas Snoop, this is where Snoop messed up. That second album.
Yes.
That second album,
Yes.
after following up Doggy Style, and then you drop the Dogfather,
Right.
and it was absolute trash. Like nobody can sit here and tell me
Yeah, we talked
that
about
had
a few weeks
anything
ago.
good on it.
Yeah.
And then he pretty much like he's definitely the king of reinventing himself and staying relevant in the game. And he's one of the GOATs, but he's not the GOAT.
Jay Diff, let me ask you this real quick. This is just random. Follow me. Which album is better? The Dogfather or Nostradamus?
Nostradamus.
Nostradamus?
The Dogfather is absolute trash.
But which album is better?
Nostradamus. I already said it.
Nasty Nostradamus.
Stop, Loans. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Now he is
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Nostradamus.
I
The
love
only good
Snoop,
song
but I
on
remember
Dogfather was probably Snoop's Upside Your Head, and that's because Charlie Wilson was.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. I'm just checking the temperature.
I feel like we can throw both of them away if we want.
We could, except for Project Windows. I'm keeping that.
You want to keep that one?
Yeah, I got to keep Project Windows, and I got to keep just Project Windows. Just Project Windows.
I still remember the feeling I had when I opened up that CD. My brother got that for me for Christmas.
Nostradamus?
Yeah.
That's a terrible Christmas.
But at the time, it was like,
at the time, it's like, yeah.
Though,
no,
he was
no,
on
no,
before
no,
that.
no,
Yeah,
no.
he was
But
on.
no,
before
he
that.
got it for me. I was like, oh, that's, okay.
Thank you.
And, I played it. It was like, man, this
You wouldn't groove in your bedroom when you heard you owe
Be
me.
careful, man. Be careful. Genuine.
Man, what's your pride? The thing is, that
song ain't bad.
No, as a commercial, but that's not what we want
It's
from Nas.
cool.
No, it's not cool. It is a great commercial. When you think about what was going on, I was outside at that time.
Yeah.
That was a great commercial.
And Hate Me
rap
Now on that
song.
album?
No.
No, I'm getting that confused with it. See, I'm showing my age.
No.
Okay.
You can hate me
But that was a
now.
great commercial rap song.
I'm showing my age.
Not from the dude that gave us The World Is Yours.
Yo, Project Windows, go. I'm sorry.
But you know what? Like that Nostradamus album,
go.
there was
Shout out to Ronald Isley.
it got super like it was supposed like it got bootlegged to death. They had to move around stuff and re-record things.
But
the Lost Tapes
Trash.
better than
complete trash.
put out the
Yeah,
bootlegs.
the Lost Tapes wasn't
It
even
was supposed
mastered.
at one point it's supposed to be a double album. There was a lot that went on in that era.
Well, the
we can't
Dogfather is
even
trash.
give him an excuse for that because that was hogwash.
I don't wanna hear-
He could have kept his album that came out I Am that year and just let that ride.
Hey,
and,
if you
and
in the
threw that went away.
If you in the comments on TikTok or whatever, we appreciate the support as always. But I'm gonna need a thorough explanation as to why y'all think the Dogfather is not trash. Convince me. I'm gonna jump in the comments. Please tell me if there's anybody's out there why the Dogfather is not
I've
trash.
never
We
talked
don't
to
talk about
anybody
it.
that told me that Dogfather.
Somebody
wasn't
else-
trash.
somebody out there.
I don't
There's
know
somebody out
anybody
there.
who's just like, say, let me revisit the Dogfather.
I'm gonna request the
That's one of
Dogfather
those
next time I
albums
go to
that I bought,
Coach's.
paid good money for, and was upset because I spent some good money on an album that was trash.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna request Blueberry and Snoop's Upside.
Is that one of the biggest fall offs ever from a great album to
that is
that's
the definition of a sophomore slump.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay, that's what I was looking for. A sophomore slump.
He came back though. So
He came back.
and not everybody comes back.
No, a lot of times that sophomore slump, that's the end of your career.
Did y'all like the No Limit albums from Snoop? Did y'all like
I was cool off those personally.
Okay.
Last Meal,
actually,
No Limit Top Dog. Those
No
were-
Limit
those
Top
went.
Dog was
that
cold.
first one.
Yeah, it was shaky, but No Limit Top Dog was cold.
Yeah.
Rhythm and Gangster is probably
Rhythm and Gangster was
one of my-
really
Yeah, but that was
good.
like that was after that.
That's
That's
way
after
after.
he left.
Yeah,